From time to time, I invite very distinguished people to come to St. Michael's to speak with us. And I have a very special guest today, special in more respects than one, certainly because he's being invited a second time. Not everybody gets invited a second time, but he's been invited a second time, and that makes it all the more special. He is the minister of the Metropolitan Church in Toronto, which is a church very similar to this one, not in its external fabric, but in its position within the city of Toronto. That one of the main city church in Toronto, just as St. Michael's is the main city church within the Reformed churches here in Melbourne. And he has been there for quite a long time, as I have been here for quite a long time. So we thought we'd have a little discussion today about what we'd like to tell our successor. Not that they'll take any notice of us, just as we didn't take any notice of our predecessors, but we thought that with his experience of more than 25 years at his place and mine more than 40 years at this place, we ought to have something to say to them. And so we're going to try and do that. But first I'd like to say, let me welcome him to you. And Malcolm, would you come forward? Where are you? You see, he's wearing one of these stoles also to indicate that he doesn't quite know who he is.
Actually, if the pack gets separated at the coffee hour, we know how to find each other. You see, that's what it is.
Some good purpose. Welcome back to St. Michael's.
Thank you, sir. It's such an honor to be here. To be invited to Australia once is a surprise, and to be invited back again is a miracle. So I'm known as the miracle boy at home when I told my people that Australia had indeed invited back. And it's so wonderful to sit with you. The last time I was here for 3 weeks, I met you the first week, and then you went and wrote a book or something, and I thought I never even got to say hello, but we've had a couple of really fine conversations, and we're having lunch on Tuesday, and I really like to sit at Dr. Macnab's feet for a while and learn some things from him.
We don't normally do lunch that way.
Oh, you don't?
You can sit opposite me, not at my feet.
I brought my special pants and everything.
We want to talk about church and the future. Mm-hmm. You saw some of you would have seen in the newspaper, the advertisement today said, does the church have any hope of being resilient in the future? Resilient means, can it get over its past, its recent past? Can it recover again? What's your view?
I feel that moderate Protestant churches, middle Protestant churches like ours, will not see the numbers ever again that we saw when Christendom was alive and well. The 1960s saw the bottom fall out of the denomination which I serve, and it's been patch in lots of ways ever since. That doesn't mean that the quality of people we're seeing has grown any less, nor the hunger to know what the heart of the church is. That's still very real. But the idea of the structure and counting on 1,000 people a Sunday or whatever, large Sunday schools, I think those days are gone.
In the past, in this country, as I suppose in yours, it was fairly easy to have a large congregation without the chap up front trying. He didn't need to try very hard. He just had to be there on Sunday. I think we have to try harder now, don't you?
I believe so. People still, when asked, the things they value most in middle Protestant churches are preaching and music and preaching. Those are the first two. And people come with their hearts wide open. They really want to hear something of the heart of the good news, and not just a surface dressing. And they also want their hearts to be moved. As Barbara Brown Taylor, one of the great American writer, said, we don't need to hear more about God, we need to experience more God. And that's why people come.
I liked what you said just a moment ago when you said that the quality of the people has perhaps changed. Yeah. And I think that's happened here too, that although we could, in the 50s, 60s, could have large congregations doing nothing. These days, the quality of the people, is, at least in this place, is quite remarkable.
Ours as well. You don't have to go to church these days, so people who cross the street to come in roll up their sleeves, quite literally sometimes, and say, how can we make a difference? How can we work with the mystery at the heart of life? How can we be faithful in our lifetime? And so those are wonderful questions which we get to work with together.
We have a big task, though, don't we? I've been associated with now 3 major city churches, two in Scotland and this one here. Now, in the 2 in Scotland, once when I was there, latter part of my student days, they had congregations of 2,500 people. If you go there these days, one has closed. One of those city churches has literally closed its doors, and the other has done a reconstruction inside the church and converted the large auditorium into a small place. I saw that similar things happen in Europe. Churches once, Copenhagen is a case in point, huge churches empty or turned into cinemas. I sometimes tell my church council, we need to work hard here or this place will be a cinema. So we're avoiding that possibility. What happens in Canada? Are you seeing the same decimation of the Reformed churches, the congregations?
The United Church of Canada, which is the largest Protestant denomination in the country, that being said, 85% of its congregations across Canada have fewer than 75 worshippers on a Sunday morning, and that's the largest Middle Protestant church. In downtown Toronto, there are 2 congregations left, ours being one, and the other has 11 congregations meeting in it to try to keep the building going. Midtown, we have about 4 or 5 congregations, 2 or 3 of which are struggling year by year, and then beyond that into the suburbs and so on, it's a struggle. And our national office, the National United Church of Canada, has trimmed major staff on 2 occasions in the last year and has cut funding to missions and so on because the financial support, mission and service is simply not there anymore.
So what do you think we should say to our successors, each in our different place, given the fact that, I don't know about in your church, you see, we have it happen here that although we're a happy bunch of brothers and sisters, to quote the Shakespeare, but there's a lot of white anting goes on within the denomination. There's a lot of difficulty outside the denomination, attacking, if not attacking the church, then simply moving away from it and saying it's irrelevant, you have nothing to say to us, and you're not doing anything of any significance, so why should we bother about you? So we've become one of those neglected places on the corner. A nice looking building, but what do you say about that,
well,
to our successors?
First thing is love the congregation you meet, love them. They will tell you how to be their minister. I think that's critical. If you get high rollers and egomaniacs and all the rest of it in, it's just fighting that person all the way until he or she leaves. So love the congregation. Be as close to the street as you can in terms of hearing the needs around you, because they change all the time, and try to hear the central message of the gospel, which is a rich message, as it relates to the issues facing you now. So keep turning the prow of the ship into the waves as best you can, and realize that gifts have been given to you by the generation that preceded your arrival. People came and worked hard and will still work hard with you if you give them a chance and listen to their stories and so on.
Yes, we have a tradition here that the successor tries to get rid of every memory or every possibility of memory of his predecessor. Yes. And I suppose we are both a little bit egotistical in the sense, or we wouldn't be in our job either. And we would like them to remember us rather than to get rid of us altogether.
I'd just like to clarify that Canadians are not egotistical. I just needed to clear that right up. However, I have signed my name secretly throughout the building at Metropolitan, and they'll find them one by one over the years.
With plaques and
big time, yes.
And portraits as we have here.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So, do we have anything to give them?
I was told when I arrived at Metropolitan, I've been very surprised that I was called there. I think years ago when our denominations were stronger, I don't think I would have ever been given opportunity to be in such a great church, and I've been there 25 years. When I first arrived, people said, "We are handing you a piece of precious jade, do not drop it." And I think that's been a wonderful message to start, and I would say to my successor, we're handing you a precious piece of something. Use your gifts and skills to further it. This is not your place. It belongs to something greater than all of us. Honor it as best you can in your time. And then I hope I have the chutzpah to back away from it and let the place unfold. There's nothing worse in my mind than the predecessor following the new person around. I've heard stories where the new person arrived 2 weeks after and found the predecessor sitting at his old desk with his feet up on them. And it didn't last too long, the relationship. Yeah.
So we won't do that, will we?
Well, I won't.
When I visited your church, what seems like 100 years ago, before you were there,
yes.
You had a big music program.
Yes.
Do you still have that?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that will go on?
I hope so. It's the concerts are independently funded from concert revenues and so on. We have a large choir, a full-time music person, and an assistant, and the largest pipe organ in Canada, 8,300 pipes, which needs maintenance, and a carillon of bells and all the rest of it. So we have a parking lot on our church property.
I'd just like to interrupt you.
Yes, go ahead.
Just don't talk about the organ
No, I
any
won't.
further.
Yeah, actually, Reese asked me to mention it specifically, so I just needed to. Yeah. Our little parking lot brings in a revenue of $800,000 a year. Our parking lot, and that's half our budget. So if people stop parking in our lot, we are finished in 3 months. So we are very aware that we are living on a knife edge like every other congregation of our kind, that everyone's 2 bad years away from disaster at some point. That does not mean God is not faithful, and it does not mean that people are not fabulous, and it does not mean that the message and its power will not continue. It's going to shift. It's going to look different, that's all.
You can see why he's the minister of Metropolitan Church, Canada. Yes, you are. We thank you for coming to Melbourne.
Thank you. And will you take the organ comment seriously for Reese's sake?
I will not talk about that again, all right?
Thank you.
Would you thank him?